Welcome. Today is January 6, 2020. You are listening to Counterculture. I'm your host, Aaron Lujan. It is July 6th, recording for the July 7th broadcast. Today's title of the broadcast is episode 39. Counterculture is back, announcing a new format and schedule. Thank you guys for joining me. This is being recorded live on Facebook. And most importantly, this is recorded as a podcast. Counterculture with Aaron Lujan is available on Stitcher, Overcast, iTunes, all the major podcast players. I just watched mine on Apple. I think they're called Apple Podcasts now. I think iTunes is a 2017 thing. Unfortunately, guys, I have bad news. I had to break my cultural tradition of black coffee. My wife prepared coffee for me today and put milk in it. So my apologies for breaking time-honored traditions. Today's podcast is going to be short and sweet. It's going to be about 30 minutes. It's 10:48 Mountain Standard Time. I should be done. Let's do the math here, guys. What is that, like? Call it 10:50, so like 11:20. I'll wrap things up Mountain Time if you're watching live on the Facebook. The purpose of today's podcast is to reintroduce myself to new listeners. I last podcasted, I believe, in October of 2019. A lot of personal things took place that had prevented me from podcasting, and I missed it a lot. And I decided that now that things have settled down, started to enter into a groove, I am back. Counterculture is back. So for those of you who offline have asked about it, thank you for your support. What I want to begin by doing is first announcing what Counterculture is going to look like moving forward. And then I would like to give you sort of my take on the last couple months in terms of what's been going on in this country and throughout the world. My opinion on COVID, my opinion on the Black Lives Matter movement, sort of my analysis on that. And then we'll be done here in 30 minutes. So the big announcement is that I really like this and I really enjoy doing this. And I think it's more important now than ever for alternative voices to be heard, and what I plan on doing is podcasting short 30-minute podcasts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And within those 30 minutes, my plan is to cover the most important news of the day. Primarily censored news, primarily news that's being spun to fit a particular worldview, and that way you at home can be able to know exactly what's really happening, what's the most important news, not what's being find out the information, the news that's getting suppressed. And the remaining 30 minutes, on occasion, not all the time, I will have a guest where we can deep dive into one of those particular stories or issues of the day. And these guests are primarily experts, eyewitness figures who were at the event or involved in the event, and sometimes famous people, sometimes not so famous people, and really give ourselves context and perspective as to the news stories that we're facing. So I may not always be perfect. I have 3 kids, I have a business, I have a life. This is very important to me, but not as important as my business and my family. So it's not always going to happen Monday through Thursday in the evening, but I'm going to do my very best, guys. I want to be consistent with this. I was very inconsistent the first 38 episodes, especially since I took a 9-month vacation from this. So expect Counterculture to be a Monday through Thursday podcast, where the first 30 minutes will be breaking down the most important news of the day, and then on occasion, the remaining 30 minutes, interviews with experts and eyewitness figures. So that's Counterculture. So let's talk a little bit about what's been happening these last couple months. Obviously, the global pandemic, COVID-19, I'm of the opinion it's a plandemic. It's a scamdemic. Yes, there is a real virus. Yes, there is a flu strain, COVID-19. I've heard COVID 2021 now. It's mutated. I don't believe it's incredibly threatening. Generally, as we have heard and as we've experienced, it generally affects the elderly and those with underlying conditions. The mortality rate, I believe, is under 2%. And the suspicion of with regards to how the cases are being reported is very disturbing. Hospitals are getting paid thousands of dollars for reporting deaths attributed to COVID-19, and there's been several cases where doctors have come out and said we're being forced or strongly encouraged to do these activities, these dishonest, immoral behavior as medical doctors. I've also seen hydrochloroquine being suppressed when there's been multiple cases of people coming forward and saying it's helped me. There's been lots of evidence of people who have contracted the disease and have fared very well. And I mean, in other words, there's just not a lot of death. The mortality rate's really low. And so I don't see the big deal why this is scaring so many people, other than the fact that the media is fanning the flames and saying that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to the planet and that we're all going to die. And as we all know, the media is a weapon and they can create false narratives and manufacture consent and move people in a certain direction through their echo chamber and through their relationships with sports media. I think every day my Twitter alerts me that some hockey player, some baseball player, some basketball player is coming down with COVID-19. It's kind of like celebrity endorsement of COVID-19. So we have the general social distancing rules, the mask wearing proving itself to be to not be very effective. So right now we're being told we can't go to beaches in California when sunshine is a natural sanitizer. We're being told that, or at least a month ago, we couldn't go to church, but we could go to Kroger's and Walmart. So a lot of the guys, I'm sorry, I'm like a old car that hasn't run in a really long time, and I just can't get this engine to run. I feel like I don't know. Thank you very much for your patience. Let's try this again. So a lot of the safety precautions that have been pushed have been very illogical and inconsistent. Why would I not be able to go to church, but I can go into a crowded Walmart? Children have been proven to not transmit this disease to adults. China had the worst cases reported, the highest numbers. It purportedly originated from China, and yet we had one death, I believe, last time I checked, under the age of 18, yet we're closing down schools. We've had the highest death rates in the nursing homes. We have cases of people being flown from Mexico to LA, and then the LA County Health Department is reporting those as LA County COVID-19 deaths. So there's just a lot of suspicious activity surrounding this. The same corporate media that marched us into all these wars that left 1 million Iraqis dead is the same media that's pushing this. So I've used this analogy before. It's like the ex-girlfriend who's lied repeatedly. Why am I supposed to believe her this time? And it's really difficult because there are people who have died, but if we were to be contextual and compare that to the seasonal flu and influenza, last I've heard, there's really not a significant difference. COVID-19 isn't incredibly as scary as we are being told to believe it is. So I'm of the opinion that this is not a dangerous pandemic, that we don't need to wear masks because masks have proven to not be effective. there is no such thing, according to the CDC's emissions, of being where you're not showing symptoms, but you have the disease. You know which word I'm thinking of, but I can't remember at the moment. The masks that we're wearing generally are the cloth masks that don't do much at all and have been manufactured in really bad conditions in India. So, and then we're also restraining our air, our air path. So we're not getting a sufficient amount of oxygen. But the thing that bothers me the most is we're not able to have that human connection. You know, I don't know when people are smiling, when people are upset. Yes, a lot is communicated through the eyes, but it's really bizarre and strange and inhuman. We're losing a huge component of humanity when everyone's covering their faces and social distancing. So I'm just clearly not wearing a mask. I don't believe that this disease is very dangerous, and I think that what we should be doing is quarantining the elderly and those with underlying conditions. And we should really be having a open debate and conversation rather than having YouTube delete alternative viewpoints. Why are the doctors from the 909 San Bernardino County, I think they were from, are having their videos removed because they had an alternative viewpoint? Aren't we smart enough to be able to determine what is true and what is false? Aren't we adults and can't we make our own decisions? Why do we need YouTube to remove videos because we can't let the kids see the naughty stuff? You know, I don't let my children see certain content because I know better than them, and that's how YouTube is treating us. So it's clearly very suspicious the way that they're behaving. They're acting like they're hiding something. Why would they not allow us to have an open debate about COVID-19, about all of the moving parts as it pertains to this disease, the safety measures, the death rates, the way that the COVID-19 deaths are being reported? Recently, Project Veritas exposed CBS News, showing them that they were faking testing. I mean, there's so much unusual activity around this that it must make us pause and at least bare minimum question the official story and the narrative on this entire COVID-19 deal. So again, I want to be true to my promise and end this in 30 minutes. And I'm a talker, so I want to make sure that... All right, I have a phone. I got 20 minutes. Cool. That's COVID-19. Let's switch in our last 10-20 minutes to Black Lives Matter, social unrest. Number one, this all started with the George Floyd incident, which was incredibly suspicious in and of itself. The officer that was accused of murdering George Floyd apparently could be a crisis actor. He looks exactly like the same person who were in the Sandy Hook videos, and there hasn't been any evidence that's come forth to actually prove that he was a officer with the Minneapolis Police Department. He also had a working relationship with George Floyd, which could have suggested that there was some personal relationship. And there is no evidence that the officer, I don't remember his name, it doesn't matter, was even racist. Like, had he had his knee on his neck and been calling him racial epithets, then clearly that was racially motivated. But it appears that the media is saying, well, it must be racism because the officer's white and the victim is black, without any evidence of any racism. So we're just supposed to believe this. It's really bizarre how quickly it felt like we were just run over with this racist narrative, yet there was no evidence to support that other than the color of their skin. Number two, the Obama Foundation got caught tweeting a sign of George Floyd a couple days before his alleged murder. And then the Obama Foundation then deleted that tweet, but yet there's snapshots of that. So it almost looks like this was planned, that they had already made a decision to do this They being the deep state, those being connected to the elites, i.e., the Obama Foundation. Incredibly strange. And then we don't know the events that led to the arrest. Was he threatening the officer? That's incredibly important. We need to have context. It was like the Rodney King beating in the early 90s that led to the LA riots. I remember it came out later that Rodney King was threatening the safety of the officers, which caused them to respond violently, and that portion of the video wasn't aired. And we're having the same exact case here with the George Floyd incident. So it's important that we have context. And then immediately afterwards, of course, lock and step, corporate media goes, here's another example of systemic racism. Well, if there was systemic racism, why haven't you guys been reported on this while it's occurring? If there's always these cases of racist white cops targeting black men, then you have plenty of evidence, if it's systemic, to report on it. And I'm sure that you would be very willing to report on cases that are allegedly occurring all the time of white police officers targeting black men. But yet there is none of it. In fact, if you dig into the actual statistics, some of the data, and I want to say these are Department of Justice statistics, that it's far more common for whites to be killed. There's actually more cases of whites to be killed by police officers than blacks. So if we're looking this in this proper context, and the media's claiming that there's this epidemic, it's clearly not true according to very reliable crime statistics with regards to the color of victims of police-related murder, or I shouldn't say murder, police-related incidents that resulted in a death, because murder is obviously different. So statistically, there is no support for the claims of the Black Lives Matter movement or the corporate media. Now, I'm all for justice. I have no agenda. I don't want to defend racist cops. You know, it's generally most cops are good. And yeah, there are bad cops. I think when I was 16, I was racially profiled perhaps. I was at a bus stop at summer school, in high school. I didn't have a car, and I was, it was like the 90s. I was wearing baggy pants because that's what I'm gonna start wearing baggy pants again, guys. If it bring that back. And a police officer drove up and he said, "Hey, excuse me, were you riding there?" And I didn't understand what he was asking me, and I said, "Riding where?" He says, "Right next to you." And I look over to me, and there's graffiti on the bus stop. And so he just, I guess, assumed brown guy, brown kid, baggy pants, gang member looking, standing next to a bus stop, next to graffiti. He must have done it. I guess that was racial profiling. I don't know. It hasn't scarred me. It's not a big deal. So my point in saying this is I've maybe been a victim of racial profiling. The dozens, unfortunately, which we won't get into right now, but dozens of encounters with police officers have been very civil, very respectful. Most of the time when I've been pulled over for speeding, I had incidents with my registration a few years back where in the mid-2000s I was constantly being pulled over because I had this big problem with getting my car registered. Every time I dealt with either LA County Sheriffs or LAPD, they're very professional. Most people who go into a job having to, deal with child abuse cases, having to deal with some of the worst of humanity, generally are people who care, and generally are people who get into it to do the right things and are vetted incredibly well, because cities can't afford to be sued. So I'm just here saying, guys, we don't have a problem with a bunch of bad cops, and we don't have systemic racism in American police departments. And if there's ever an incidence of that, let's discuss those individual incidents, which should be local issues, and let's have due process, and let's follow the justice system and let's bring the evidence in a court of law and prosecute officers who are breaking the law. It just seems like everyone's all of a sudden become ignorant and are not using their brain and logic when they see a case like George Floyd where there's no context to it, and then they're saying, oh, there's systemic racism, here's the example. Well, where are all the other incidents to support this claim of systemic racism? All they're doing is they're bringing one case out of context and saying, hey guys, we have a big problem. And then the response is looting black neighborhoods and burning down many times minority owned businesses, because I know this firsthand. Most businesses in black neighborhoods are generally not owned by Anglo people. They're generally owned, at least in LA from my experience, Middle Eastern people, Korean people, Hispanics, and blacks. Very rarely do I see ever white business owners, and we saw that when Minneapolis burned to the ground. There was a GoFundMe for a bar that was owned by a black guy. What does it prove to burn down a black owner's business to honor George Floyd? George Floyd was honored by having the black community lose their income and lose their way of life and having their communities burned to the ground. It doesn't make any sense. And why is George Soros and all of these other international groups that have been connected in the past of attempting to disrupt American civil life financing the Black Lives Matter movement? Why is one of the founders, Garza, identify herself as a Marxist queer? And why are their symbols almost identical to communist movements of the past? And why are their claims identical to communist revolutions, like the destruction of the nuclear family? Go to the Black Lives Matter website and you will see one of their aims is to destroy the nuclear family. Removing moms and dads from homes and raising kids, I don't understand how that's justice for George Floyd. But you know what, guys? I'm skirting around the elephant in the room. What I want to say is this is another scam like the COVID-19. Like COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, and whatever we're going to have next is all efforts for a revolution. We are living in revolutionary times. America is under attack from the inside, potentially financed from the outside. And we have a one-party system made up of Republicans and Democrats who are pushing this aggressively, and Republicans who are just lying down, taking it. And we have a church who's for the most part silent on this. Most of the pastors around the country willingly or unwillingly going along with the narrative that we have some big racial problem. I love this video that I'm going to share tomorrow on my Facebook page. It's Denzel Washington, Lil Wayne, and all these other, Morgan Freeman, and all these other prominent black men coming out and saying, we do not have a race problem. We do not have an oppression problem. We do not have any sort of inequality issues. I don't know if anybody was around in 08 or 12, but we elected a black president. And a lot of these cities that are experiencing these incidences of violence, there's black mayors, black city council members, black attorney generals, black police chiefs. I mean, this whole thing is a joke, you guys. It's just people get caught up in the mob mentality of, sorry guys, I'm checking to see if I'm still recording. Cool. And they get caught up in this emotion. And what I really believe is it's a lot of young people who inherited a bunk economy and who have been indoctrinated in a public school system that has not educated them, but has made them malleable, I don't know if that's the right word, to the whims and the agendas of institutional power in this country. And so I am simply up here wanting to appeal to your logic and appeal to your reason. and beg of you to think for yourself and do your own research and think about some of the things that I'm pointing out. So I'm just going to conclude with this, you guys, because I'm approaching my... I got some more time, but I'm running out of gas. Look up this concept of color revolution. Look up the concept of the Bolshevik Revolution. These are the Bolshevik Revolution, the Jewish Bolshevik Revolution. And don't Google it, guys. Use DuckDuckGo. Google's Gulag. It's a mind control system. It's great to find pho and Thai food. It's not a great place to research historical facts. DuckDuckGo. These two concepts will give you a lot of insight into what's happening right now. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm just trying to give you guys some goodies to take home with you. This is my goodie bag when you leave the party. Another thing I would encourage you to do is take a close look at E. Michael Jones. I've been paying a lot of attention to him. He's an author who's been banned from Amazon. He's been attacked mercilessly by the Anti-Defamation League and other institutional groups. He's not brought on to any mainstream or corporate media entities, and he is essentially documenting and putting this revolution that we're under right now in its proper context. He's an academic. He's a historian. He's probably one of the foremost cultural analysts of our times. He publishes a magazine called Culture Wars. And this guy will really, I think, point you in the right direction. The Jewish Revolution is one of his books, and Logos Rising is his latest book. So I would point you over there. And I would also like to say that I'm expecting another major event before the election. It may be a terror attack. It may be financial. If you guys haven't noticed, we're getting pummeled right now. There's a new strain of COVID. The Black Lives Matter movement has not eased up one bit. But there's this, and this isn't all about Trump. A lot of my pro-Trump friends I think, have a jaded perspective that, whoa, this is to stop Trump from getting elected. Trump is the figurehead of the majority of this country who elected him. But this is not all about Trump. Trump will come and go. There'll be future presidents. Of course, they don't want him to win in November. And yes, they don't. And a lot of these efforts are to stop him. But it's not solely to stop Trump. This is an effort to break this republic, to break the back of America, to break our will, to divide us along race, to divide us along who wears a mask, who doesn't wear a mask, to divide us along political lines, perhaps class. So we are under a revolution. The communists, the Marxists are on the march. And we, the people, need to stay watch. We need to be vigilant. We need to pay attention. We need to detach ourselves emotionally and engage ourselves intellectually and know the time and the hour that we live in. This was AaronLujan.com. All of my content is housed at AaronLujan.com. I will not probably be on Facebook for long. There is a huge effort right now to remove voices like myself. So in my next episode, I will be providing alternative methods to keep this information in your hands so that we can communicate it through uncensored methods. Again, guys, this was episode 39. I think it was Counterculture's Back. And I don't remember the rest of the title, guys. Oh yeah, I'll be announcing my new format and new schedule, which again is going to be 30-minute podcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, covering censored news, covering news that is being reported but in its proper context to keep you guys informed. And then on occasion, the remaining 30 minutes, we'll have a guest where we'll get into the issues, or I'll just rant and get crazy. Thank you for joining me, you guys. Almost on the dot, 11:17 Mountain Standard Time. Today was July 6th, 2020. This was Counterculture with Aaron Lujan. Thank you so much, you guys. Love you. Peace.